Long ago, in a quiet rural land, far from the noise of cities, there was a small village resting beside a slow-moving river. The river was not wide, nor especially beautiful, but it had been there for generations, silently watching lives begin and fade away. Around it stretched endless fields of soil, shaped by human hands and time itself. In this village lived a farmer named Samuel. Samuel was over 50 years old, though his body felt much older than that. Years of working under the burning sun had carved deep lines into his face. His back was slightly bent, his hands rough and scarred, his skin darkened by seasons of labor. Yet behind his tired eyes lived a quiet kindness and a patience. Shaped by hardship, Samuel lived alone. His small wooden house stood at the edge of the village. Close to the fields he worked every day, the roof was made of straw, patched many times. Over the years, the walls creaked softly whenever the wind passed through. Inside, the house was simple: one wooden table, 2 old chairs, a small bed near the window, and a stove blackened by years of use stopped once. This house had been filled with voices. Samuel used to have a wife who laughed easily and children who ran barefoot through the fields, but life had taken its quiet turns. His wife passed away after a long illness, and his children, grown and eager for opportunity, left the village to seek work in the city. They promised to return often, but promises fade when distance grows. And so, Samuel was left alone with only his memories, his fields, and one loyal companion. That companion was a black water buffalo. Samuel had raised the buffalo since it was young. It was not the largest buffalo in the village, nor the strongest by appearance, but it had a calm strength and a gentle spirit. Its eyes were deep and dark, reflecting patience rather than fear. Over the years, Samuel spoke to it more than he spoke to people. To outsiders, it was just an animal. To Samuel, it was family. Every morning, Samuel woke before dawn. The village was still asleep, wrapped in silence. He would sit up slowly, stretch his aching limbs, and listen to the distant sound of insects and wind brushing through grass. Then he lit the stove, boiled a pot of tea, and drank it slowly, letting the warmth settle his body. After that, he walked to the buffalo shed. The moment the buffalo heard Samuel's footsteps, it lifted its head and let out a low, familiar sound. Its tail swayed gently, tapping against the wooden wall. Samuel always smiled at that sound. "Good morning," he would say softly, as if greeting an old friend. He brushed the buffalo's back, checked its legs, and cleaned the shed with careful hands. Sometimes he spoke about the weather, sometimes about the crops, and sometimes about things he had never spoken aloud to another human being: his loneliness, his regrets, his hopes. The buffalo listened in silence. Samuel believed that silence was a form of understanding. With the buffalo by his side, Samuel worked the fields day after day. Together they plowed the soil, planted rice, harvested crops, and carried heavy loads across muddy paths. When the sun burned fiercely, the buffalo never slowed. When rain turned the ground into thick mud, it never complained in difficult years. When drought cracked the earth and many families struggled to survive, Samuel endured. He shared rice with neighbors when he could. He never went hungry, not because he was rich, but because his buffalo gave him the strength to continue. Samuel often thought that as long as the buffalo was with him, he would never truly be alone. Then came the storm. One night, the sky darkened early. Wind howled through the village, bending trees and tearing leaves from their branches. Rain fell heavily, pounding against the straw roofs like fists. Samuel lay awake in bed, listening to the storm. He worried about the fields, about the roof, about the buffalo. But exhaustion eventually pulled him into sleep when morning came. The storm had passed. Samuel rose, put on his old jacket, and stepped outside. The air smelled of wet earth and broken leaves. Everything was quiet. He walked toward the buffalo shed, and then he stopped. The shed was empty. At first, Samuel thought his eyes were deceiving him. He stepped closer. The rope that had always tied the buffalo was cut clean through. Muddy footprints led away into the distance. His heart dropped. Samuel called out, his voice trembling. No answer. The truth settled slowly, painfully. The buffalo was gone. Samuel sank to his knees. For a long time he did not move. The world felt suddenly too large, too empty. He felt as if a part of his own body had been torn away. Word spread quickly through the village. Neighbors came, offering comfort. Some spoke of reporting the theft. Others whispered that stolen buffalo were often taken far away and sold, never to return. Samuel listened, but his mind felt distant. Without the buffalo, his life changed completely. The fields went unattended. Weeds grew tall. His strength alone was not enough to work the land properly. Every morning he still walked toward the empty shed, as if hoping the buffalo would be there again. At night, Samuel dreamed in his dreams. The buffalo stood in the fields calling to him. Sometimes it was lost, sometimes it was waiting. Samuel woke with tears on his face, yet Samuel did not give up. He worked for others, digging soil, harvesting crops, carrying heavy loads. His body grew more tired, but his spirit remained firm. He saved every coin he could. Though he knew money could never replace what he had lost, nearly a year passed. Then one day, unexpected news arrived. A buffalo thief had been caught in a distant market. Among the recovered animals was a black buffalo, with a small scar on its neck. Samuel's heart raced. When the buffalo was brought back, Samuel stood trembling. The moment the buffalo saw him, it cried out and pulled forward. Samuel embraced it, tears flowing freely. In that moment, the pain of loss faded. The villagers watched silently, understanding that some bonds cannot be broken. From that day on, Samuel lived with renewed gratitude. He repaired the shed, cared for the buffalo with even greater devotion, and worked the fields with a lighter heart. And in that quiet village, the story of Samuel and his buffalo lived, and a reminder that true wealth is not measured in possessions, but in love, patience, and the strength to endure loss without losing hope.